This is the Horse Radio Network.
The weather outside is frightful, but HRN is so delightful.
Time to get your voicemail entries in for the 5th annual Holiday Radiothon by State Line Tech. It is your chance to win over $5,000 in prizes. What better gift can you receive at Christmas than cool horse stuff for you and your horse? Prizes this year include your choice of any Wintech saddle, up to a $1,500 value, or you could win a $500 gift certificate from Kelly Hurd Jewelry. Other great prizes from other great companies include Uncle Jimmy's, Kentucky Performance Products, Total Saddle Fit, Monty Roberts, Smooth Stride Jeans, State Line Tack, Horse Lovers, Gene Abernathy, Cavallo Boots, BioStar, Horse Holster, Benefab, and many, many more. You have until November 18th to get your entries in. Visit holidayradiothon.com to see how to enter. That's holidayradiothon.com. Head on over today. You don't want to miss out.
This is episode 20 of Retired Racehorse Radio on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, Casual Products, Bates Saddles. Retired Racehorse Radio is your guide to the adoption, care, and training of the retired racehorse, brought to you in cooperation with the Thoroughbred Makeover and new Vocations.
It's going to be a Standardbred Spectacular today on Retired Racehorse Radio. We are talking to Alyssa Hedges of ROC, the Standardbred, to learn about how these horses can do more than just race. Dr. Seamans comes on to talk about how a horse's sight can affect their behavior. New Vocations ambassador and Standardbred mom, Colleen Nolan-Tran, joins us to talk about her experience at Equine Affair. And we come on with our grand finale with New Vocations Winner's Circle Adoptable Horse of the Week. Listen in.
And they're off on Retired Racehorse Radio, the podcast that is your guide to the adoption, care, and training of the retired racehorse.
This is Jamie Jennings, and I'm in Norman, Oklahoma.
And this is Joy Hills from Kalamazoo, Michigan, and you're listening to Retired Racehorse Radio.
Woo, what's going on, girl? We have got Standardbreds today. That's so exciting.
I know. I've been wanting to talk about them for a while now, and I just feel like the pieces are all coming together, and we're ready to branch out. Now that the Thoroughbred Makeover is done for at least a couple months before we get back to next year's.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, I'm watching people like, I'm buying my next, I'm looking for my 2020. So amazing. So that's awesome. And I do want to tell everybody that I pre-recorded this interview with Dr. Seamans, and it is about vision with horses, and it is super interesting. It kind of has made me change the way I kind of think about things when I'm introducing a horse to a new thing. So definitely don't miss that. You know, we love Dr. Seamans. So he came on and did a great job. How is life for Joy?
Things have been good, crazy. You know, I missed the last episode because we had the farrier out. And guys, let me just tell you, if you suspect something is off about your horse, trust your gut.
Really?
It's not my horse, but it's a horse I take care of over the winter while her owner goes to Florida. And she was coming up lame for weeks, like almost 3-legged lame after a trim. And, you know, I just told her, I was like, this isn't normal. I don't know what he's telling you, but it's not normal. The truth is, he was trimming her so short, like as if she should have shoes, that she couldn't support her weight. And you could actually put your thumb on the frog and feel the joints moving around without really putting pressure. Like it was getting to a really bad place. So we ended up doing some corrective shoeing with her. It took 5 of us to hold her up. Just the pain was so intense. But as soon as it was done, it was so rewarding to see her comfortably walk off. Like you could tell she was just kind of feeling the shoes out, but she was able to walk, and she's never done that after a trim. So it's a long road ahead, but I'm really glad that my friend trusted me. We switched farriers, we got x-rays, and it looks like this horse is going to have a bright future, especially she's so young. So yeah, if you notice anything's off, just trust your gut. It's worth asking questions.
It's funny you mentioned that because I've dealt with the farrier this week as well. It is so important to have a good team surrounding you with your off-the-track thoroughbreds, standardbreds, any of your horses, really in general. I just I just felt like the horse that I have in training right now, AJ Daylight, he is really coming along super quick. Wow, he is impressive. But I just felt like there was something a little bit not 100%. And he was adopted out and then kind of got in a bad situation, and the rescue took him back. And he had, at some point, had some bad trimming, and he had some abscesses pop through the coronary band. So, that leaves that defect in their hoof as it grows down. Mm-hmm. Well, those defects, I feel like, have been making him not super comfortable. So I contacted the rescue and I contacted my farrier, and they are paying for us to get bar shoes for just a couple of the cycles, and really working with the farrier. She's a certified journeyman. She's amazing. And we're going to put some corrective shoes on him for 2 cycles. And then hopefully everything will be grown out in time, just to give him a little extra stability. So it is very important, like you've probably noticed this week, is to have a really good team around you. Mm-hmm. And, your farrier, just like your veterinarian, needs to explain everything to you. If you have questions, ask them. Make sure that they have answers for your questions.
And don't be afraid to get a second opinion. If the answer you get doesn't come off right, of kind of like this one, I've been trimming for so many years, and if your horse can't even go outside to go get the new hay bale that the owner just put out, you should get a second opinion.
But I've been doing this for years, since before you were born. Well, it doesn't mean you've been doing it well.
Exactly.
Well, hey, we would like to get to our first sponsor, Kentucky Performance Products. We would like to thank them for being our title sponsor. Let's hear from them.
She swallowed hard as they walked into the start box. She could feel his muscles tense under her leg. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Have a great ride. She didn't have to ask. He galloped out of the box and across the field toward their first training level course. His ears pricked. Her heart pounded. He attacked each obstacle with confidence, clearing them with room to spare. A huge smile broke out on her face as she crossed through the finish flags. She leaned forward and buried her face in his neck. Their bond of love and trust blocked out all else. This love story is brought to you by Elevate. Research proven to have superior bioavailability. Elevate supplies the essential vitamin E often missing from the equine diet. Its all-natural formula supports healthy muscle and nerve functions. The horse that matters to you matters to Kentucky Performance Products. Call 859-873-2974 or visit kppusa.com to order today.
Well, I'm really excited to welcome Alyssa Hedges. She is the president and founder of Rock the Standardbred. She was born with the horse train and grew up primarily trail riding, and was introduced to standardbreds as a teen, but not as racehorses. They were under saddle. So, Alyssa, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
So you were introduced to standardbreds at the racetrack, which I think a lot of us see them at kart races. Where did you initially meet your first standardbred that left this impression for you?
Yeah, I had absolutely zero clue that harness racing even existed. So I spent a lot of my summers as a teen working at YMCA Camp Leona in Warsaw, New York. And our camp program would just do trails. It wasn't a specific horse program. And so we would lease horses locally to come in for the summer. And a lot of the horses, just because it was a close proximity, I'm assuming, to Buffalo and Batavia and the racetracks there, were standardbreds. And there was this one little gelding that showed up one day, and he came in at the end of the season, and my boss said to me, I don't know anything about him, figure it out. So from that moment, I was absolutely sold. I fell in love with that horse. He was probably 20-something already, but he was just a lot of fun, and we connected right away. And the impression that he left on me, obviously, was really, I fell in love with the breed. And it wasn't until after, that I was like, oh, harness racing. Okay, that's interesting.
So did you know if he was an off-the-track standardbred, or do you think he was just kind of bred and didn't make it?
I did a little bit of research at that point, because I'm in my 30s now. So at that point, with the age he was at, they were only doing the lip tattoos. And his was just, as they age, the tattoos are harder and harder to read. What I thought I knew as far as the alphanumeric digit, I called into the USTA, back in the old days when we didn't have the internet. And I just was wrong on all my guesses. So I never quite figured out who he was. He obviously did, was bred. Whether he did anything at the track or not, I have no idea.
Okay. And you said he left this impression, you were smitten with him. What were the things about the breed that stood out that you're like, oh my gosh, I want to learn more about them?
I would say our herd, I want to say it was probably about 20, 25 horses that we would have to rotate through. And I would guess the last couple summers that I was working there, probably 7 to 10 of them were standardbreds. They were just super amiable, super level-headed. They weren't as cantankerous as some of the other horses that we had coming through. We actually had one that somebody must have taken for the winter and done some trick training with it because she would rear on command. But to me, they were just goofy puppy dog type personality, and that's, my favorite, because I've always just enjoyed being around them. I'd cared less about riding, so for me, personality is a big thing.
So tell us how that influenced Rock the Standardbred, which I called ROC before, but it's Rock the Standardbred.
So that was a big part of my life through high school, and I got out of horses for quite a while, and as an adult got back into horses. And I picked up a younger Appaloosa cross off of Craigslist and was looking for something because he was only a year and a half at the time, so he was just kind of a sit and wait type thing. I was looking for something that I could get going right away. And in my time doing that, I came across a group of rescue people up here. And I just kind of learned quickly, they were not breed specific, but I learned quickly that a lot of people didn't understand standardbreds as an adult, and that they could be ridden, and, that they could go out and do all these things. And so I kind of felt a call, to start to educate people. No, these horses are fantastic, especially if you're talking about the person that wants to pop on once or twice a month and go for a trail ride and be safe. Are you going to have all of the same abilities, and that the thoroughbreds are doing? Probably not, but the standardbreds definitely have their strong point in a really good market that's being missed out on. So we got involved with a local breeder up here and some rescue work, and I ended up taking in older gelding. And just from there, it kind of snowballed. So Rock the Standardbred initially started as a Facebook group, and it was just to connect people locally that had taken horses off of this farm. And that kind of grew to, well, why don't we start promoting all the things that they can do locally and try and build a market here? And then that snowballed into, well, why don't we build a market everywhere and try and drive up adoption rates at programs like New Vocations or Standardbred Retirement Foundation, or, why don't we try and fill this void? All the people that are doing the rescuing are focusing on the daily care and the retraining. So why don't we try and build that market?
I think you've done a great job with that too. I'm on your website right now, and just even the main screen, you have them as hunter jumpers, pulling a cart, Western pleasure. Like, you're really showing the versatility of them. And you have this amazing quote, and I hope it's okay that I read it on here. Those who know the breed will claim the standardbred is one of the world's best kept secrets. A breed that, in addition to being the fastest horse in harness, also excels under saddle and faces every task asked of it with gentleness, patience, and a bottomless heart. That was from Horse Illustrated in October 1993. And I think you're absolutely right that we hear so much of off-the-track thoroughbreds. Even our own podcast really focused on thoroughbreds this year. You don't hear as much about standardbreds, and you created that platform to bring people together. And it looks like in your resources, you're attempting to do a potential makeover for standardbreds. Tell us about that idea.
Absolutely. I would love to. There's been a couple of small ones on the East Coast that have popped up, but the makeovers that the thoroughbred people are doing are obviously huge. And I think it does a lot to shed light on what the breed can do. And that's what the standardbreds need. My goal would be at this point to just do something New York State, whether it was bred in New York State, race here, and just kind of focus on that right now,
Mm-hmm.
because growing to something that's a nationwide type activity that's a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
So whether 2020 happens or in the next couple of years, it's definitely something that's on my radar. Just a quick little snippet about somebody here locally reached out to me. They had a horse that they retired off the track a few months ago, and he's only 8 years old. And these people, the owners and the people that were training it, committed to putting this horse under saddle. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So this is fantastic. This is the awesome side that maybe we don't publicize or give enough attention, is that there are people out there that really care about their horses, even when they're not racing, and want to set them up for success in their second careers. So they sent this horse to a local farm that focuses on dressage, and the trainers there had never even considered having a standardbred in the barn, let alone trying to retrain it to ride. And he is now entering his 90-day month of training, and they're absolutely smitten with the breed at this point.
Oh.
The one thing that I will say about the breed is that the work ethic is there, and whether or not they're fully ready to do what you're, asking them to do under saddle, they will typically give it their all. So I think that having a challenge is not so much to promote the breed to potential adopters, but also getting them into the hands of trainers that might not give them a chance otherwise. Because the trainers are the ones that are making the recommendations to their clientele, So the standardbred is going to sell itself to anybody. They just have to be given the chance to sell themselves.
I love that. And I'm 100% with you. That's actually why I created Retired Racehorse Radio, is I got an off the track thoroughbred, and there wasn't just that one-stop shop to have, training tips and advice, and to know people are also going through some of the less glamorous sides of training an ex-racehorse.
Sure. Right.
But they can do so much. So, and I also love that you're also looking at doing what's the Shades of Bay riding club. And that's also kind of in the works too, but it's for the people who aren't interested in competing, but still want to promote the breed. Tell us your vision for that.
Yeah. So I didn't grow up showing, and I personally really have no desire to show. And I think that the horse world is at a point where a lot of the middle class folks don't quite have enough money to go out and show, and so I feel like, at least locally, the show circuit's getting a little bit smaller, and that it maybe is a little bit more difficult for the people that are not super serious. So I wanted to still have that community feel, and that's where the Shades of Bay Riding Club came in. What can we do to get people together and really just have that camaraderie of getting the breed out, going out, doing trail rides, doing hunter paces, and really taking a good handful of these standardbreds out to a hunter pace and introduce them, to the people and the other horses that are out there, and show them, again, their strong points. And I think that it would be important as well to get them, a large group of them, out in the public, because there's this idea that, they're all these ugly bay, jug-headed, big Roman nose, big ears horses. And that's not so true anymore. I had a gelding a few years back. People thought he was a quarter horse. I had one that he was gray, and he looked a lot more like a Lipizan. I've got a little one right now that I'm trying to help place, little 2-year-old, that looks like a Morgan. So there's just a huge variety. And I think that would help to educate and maybe open up people's eyes, that, I'm not going to get this big, ugly Roman nose, although I love the Roman noses. So
I love it. And if people were interested in either trying to help, maybe they have some ideas with how to take these ideas off the ground, either the makeover Shades of Bay, or, just want to learn more about standardbreds, you have such a great site. Where can they go to find that?
Definitely go to my website. I think has the most information. It is certainly optimized for desktop viewing, not mobile phone at this time, just because I'm the one building it and I haven't even addressed that. But please do hit up the www.rockthestandardbred.org. Yes, please, if anybody is willing to help get these projects off the ground, I will gladly take the help. I'm definitely at a point where, the more hands we can get going, the faster we can get these things going for ultimately the horses. Personally, never saw myself trying to run a nonprofit. I learned a lot this year, and I just keep reminding myself, it's for the benefit of the horses, and the more that we can all work together to take care of them, the better it's going to be for them. So.
Absolutely. And we're on there too. If there's any way that we can help you, we're more than happy to do so. Alyssa, thank you so much for coming on today. We were so excited to have you. And we'll be following your efforts into making the first big Standardbred makeover. I'm going to challenge you to run that ship.
All right. We'll aim high.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Cashel Company helps you enjoy the ride with their full line of trail bags and tush cushions. From cannel bags to horn bags and everything in between, comfort and convenience on the trail is what Cashel does best. To stay up to date with the latest products and news, follow Cashel Company on Facebook and Instagram. And to find their products, visit an authorized dealer or visit cashelcompany.com. It's time to bring in our favorite veterinarian here, and he is the official veterinarian of Retired Racehorse Radio. And I would love to talk to him about something that is, I'm really interested in.
Let me stop you there, because if we call him official, he's going to want paid. So let's take that out. And
No, you give me a title, and then you don't have to pay me.
Oh, I like that. You're the official veterinarian for both shows.
See what I'm talking about?
Yeah. And of course,
I remember asking Glenn the first time we talked on the phone, did they call me because of my expertise and my brilliance? And he says, well, actually, you're the only one we could get to work for free.
Exactly.
So we got that out there. Okay.
And this is, of course, Dr. Madison Seamans from Cornerstone Equine. Thank you for joining us. You're up in the land of the frozen, up in Idaho. So you are going to give a talk, I believe, about how vision influences behavior. And just that title alone makes me super interested. So the floor is yours, Doctor.
Well, thank you so much. This is something I've been studying for a while now. We get to see the various aspects of equine behavior in our practice on a daily basis. And, the question is, why is the horse afraid of me? I think the question should be, why does he ever quit being afraid of us? I love the term natural horsemanship. I mean, there ain't nothing we can do to these guys that's natural. But if we think about it just a little bit, we're always viewed as predators. And the reason that is the case is because horses are prey animals. And we are viewed as predators because we're smaller than they are. Our eyes are in front of our head, and we smell like bacon or a Big Mac or something. So it just amazes me that we could ever caught the first one. So I think it's just a testimony to their forgiving nature, and I think that's part of why we like them so much.
Well, and that's part of it too, is you have to work to prove you're not a predator. Even though some of us are vegetarians and don't smell like bacon, we're still considered predators to them.
Exactly. And so one of the things that I find very interesting about working with horses is what I call horseman's mythology. And so that's some stuff that, somebody said this 200 years ago and now is set in stone. Doesn't necessarily be true, but, people just believe it. So when we think about vision, there's several aspects we have to understand. That the horse's go-to position is always going to be threat assessment. How is he viewing the world so that he can stay alive? Okay, survival of the fittest and all of that. And so threat assessment, you can divide that up into several aspects of horse's vision. And the first one of those things that we have to recognize is the horse's blind spots. And so the horse perceives the world in three images, two monocular images out of one eye on either side, and then one binocular image of the world that he can use his two eyes to triangulate. But there's a blind spot right in front of his face for roughly 4 feet. And so if you're doing something directly in front of a horse, there's a lot of what you're doing that he cannot see. Mm-hmm. So he's just kind of going on trust that you have not all of a sudden turned into a saber-toothed butterfly or a carnivorous grocery bag, you know.
Okay.
So in all of those images are integrated in their brain, which makes for a very interesting set of physiology and anatomy. And it's just amazing how the horse can function at any level, much less at the level at which they do perform for us.
And that just to show you how amazing they are, and the fact that they will perform for us, how incredible they are.
Absolutely. And I was made painfully aware of a blind spot many years ago. I was working on a horse outfit on the East Coast, and there was a fairly large dry lot that we fed horses in, but there was not a gate big enough to get a pickup in there. So I had to hand carry bales of hay from the fence or from the truck inside this big dry lot and put it in a feeder. And there was a little bit of a drainage, a little creek-like affair running through the center of this dry lot. And so I had to step over it carrying this bale of hay. And I realized this is what we were asking the horse to do at a dead run when we're asking him to jump something. I could not see the creek because I had that bale of hay in front of me. Mm-hmm. I could see way off to the side to the left, way off to the side to the right. I could see the creek as I was approaching it within a few feet. But there was a time when I was completely blind and I had to step over that, counting the steps I knew to be how long it would take for me to get over there without getting my feet wet.
Which, so if you jump horses, that is kind of how they do it, is they pretty much memorize it before they get there.
Absolutely. And then take that another step, turn that bale of hay up on its end, and then walk into a telephone booth. Mm-hmm. Now, I understand that a lot of people of our audience are going to miss this because we don't have much in the way of phone booths anymore. But that's what you're asking the horse to do when you're asking him to get in a trailer. There's a whole bunch of that trailer he doesn't see.
Wow.
So you start thinking about this thing. So we think about this. There's threat assessments. There's part of the horseman's mythology is that the right side of the horse's brain is not wired to the left side of his body. You've probably heard that before, and that's why we do fly spray on the left side of the horse for the first time, and then we go over to the right side, and it's as if the horse is saying, "Where did you come from?" Mm-hmm. Everything all starts over again. Well, the horse's brain is wired up left to right, and I'll explain that to you in a second. And so the third thing, so we're dealing with threat assessment, we're dealing with handedness, left side, right side, and blind spots, and then we're also dealing with changes in shape. That's how the horse assesses threats. And so a change in shape is going to suggest motion. And so a predator is not any danger at all if he's holding still. So it's only when he starts moving that's when he becomes a danger.
That's so interesting. And because I have a Mustang, and we always say, what's the one thing, the hardest thing in the world to find, and that's something a Mustang hasn't already noticed. And it's very true with lots of horses. And sometimes when I would be riding out with him, and thoroughbreds too, you see a human walking around I'm like, can you please say something? Just, I don't know, speak so we know you're not a threat. That is interesting that it's when they're moving. I didn't think about that.
It's the motion that's what tends to trigger them. That's why you could take a really good horse, turn it into a real worried horse on a windy day, because you're seeing lots and lots and lots of shape changes. The leaves are blowing. Again, those saber-toothed grocery bags are blowing across his field of vision. You got this kind of stuff going on. But at a real basic physiological level, okay, there's no doubt that the horse's left side is wired to the right because of something called the pupillary light reflex. And so that's when you shine a light on one eye, you will get a constriction. And that's because the pupil, the hole in the iris, is actually responding to a lot of light in that area. And so when you get a lot of light in that area, it constricts. Well, it'll happen to the other eye. It's called a direct and consensual pupillary light response. So the horse's brain is wired left to right at a very, very deep primitive level because you get that consensual and direct PLR, which means that, yeah, they are wired up. And the other thing I always find interesting is now, don't throw your compass away when you go up to the high country, but I have found that if you get lost, the first time you've ever been on a trail several miles away from the trailer, if you will turn around and give the horse his head, he will probably be able to find the trailer in almost a perfectly direct route. So if the left brain is not wired to the right, how does he memorize the left side of the trail when he's seeing it only going in one direction?
Please tell me, because that is a mystery.
Well, it's because that left side and right side communicate. And so we know that there's going to be a little difference when we go over on the right side to do something. But as you will notice that when you're doing something, fly spray is a great example. When you're doing something on the left side of the horse, and the first time we fly spray them, they get a little worried about that. And there's many of these sensory inputs that are affecting that. However, I think a big part of that thing is there's just the change in the shape that they're seeing as they see us on the left side. And so it may take 4 or 5 minutes to fly spray them on the left, but it only takes 1 or 2 to do it on the right. That's because they've got those images that will communicate left to right in their higher brain centers where all this image information is stored.
So let's get back to the trail. So I'm 10 miles out. I turn around. I don't know how to get back. Is the horse's memory that good, or is some of this instinctual?
Well, I guess it depends. That's a great question, Glenn. I guess it depends on what you call instinct. And we know, well, for example, for the longest time, people said foals didn't see very well. Well, I don't agree with that. I think the foal sees just as well at birth as he's going to see at 10 years of age. But he doesn't have images stored in his memory banks. So he doesn't know what a fence is. He doesn't know what a stall door is. We turned some babies loose for the first time. One particular baby had been sick, and he'd been confined to a stall here this past spring. And so there was other foals out in the pasture, and the first thing this foal did, once we got him out of the door, which was a challenge because he didn't know what a door was, the first thing he did was he ran into the fence. Thank God it was a smooth wire fence, and he bounced off and jumped up and started running around again. But you will never see that foal run into that fence again, because now he has that image of a fence stored in memory banks. Once a foal has learned to negotiate the physical challenges of going through a stall door, he will never again have a problem going through that stall door. But that first time, he doesn't have any images stored in his higher brain centers to tell him what a stall door is.
And this, Dr. Seamans, is why training horses without violence is so important, because you want your horse to do, it's like, say you want him to get in the trailer and you walk him up to the trailer and inevitably somebody's going to bring out the whip. You whip them, you're convincing the horse that they were right the whole time. That trailer is terrible. We shouldn't go there because you're going to get whipped. And so forever, They have this image in their brain of getting whipped while they're standing at the back of the trailer. And you got to work pretty darn hard to get that out of there. You got to replace all those pictures, those bad pictures, with good ones, hundreds and hundreds of times before you can get rid of that. That's why it's so important to train horses without violence. But on another note,
exactly.
So we've got the shape changes, which I find fascinating. When you're like, I will be riding my horse, and there's a pasture of horses next door, and no big deal until the horses start trotting down the side of the fence or even walking down the side of the fence. My horse that I'm riding, and I ride mostly off the track thoroughbreds here, they all, oh my God, what is that? And so it makes sense that there's changes of shape. Do the horses need to be able to look at that, or should I just be like, let's get back to work? Come on, ignore that. What do you think is the best way to handle that?
Well, there's a couple of ways to approach that, and that's a very, very good analogy. And so you got to remember. So you've got the shape of, say, you're standing on the left side of the horse, but there's some contrast in the background. And so you're standing in one place on one day, and so behind you is a horse trailer and a large tree on the left side. But on the other side is a fence and a hedge and a barn. Well, those images, those contrasting backgrounds, are totally different images for the horse. So you're moving along a background setting that's changing shape all the time, every time you move. And so I think that's what they're seeing. Now, you got to remember, they're not just visual animals. There are other sensory inputs that are going to affect this. And so a group of horses moving on the left side of him is going to elicit a response because of a lot of visual and olfactory stimuli. They don't smell like carnivores, okay? Mm-hmm. But again, it's that shape change. There's also sort of that mass hysteria that, one horse sticks his tail up in the air, decides to stampede. Your horse is going to want to go with them.
Right.
Because this is, you're afraid, I'm afraid. So this spills into a couple of other aspects, and we'll touch a little bit on the trailer loading thing. The horses, light accommodation happens very slowly. And so when you and I walk out of a darkened theater midday, we're blind for just a few seconds. Within about 15 seconds or so, our eyes will accommodate, our pupils will constrict. We're not getting so much light information going back into our retinas, and it's more comfortable for us to be outside. A horse is designed to see in low lighting because that's when the predators are out. And so their accommodation to light happens very, very slowly. In some instances, maybe up to 4 or 5 minutes. So when we ask them to go into a treatment room in a clinic someplace, or in a horse trailer, or even just a darkened barn, or going from a dark barn outside, they are going to be functionally blind for a longer period than we are. So when we ask them, we're having a trailer loading exercise, the poor horse, he's got blind spots, he's got fear, he's got you being aggravated because you won't get in because you decided to train him to get in the trailer 34 seconds before you have to go to a show. So he's got all this stuff going against him, you know what I mean? And so if we just stop and think a little bit that light intensity accommodation occurs in a much more slow manner because of the nature of the retina, the back of the sensory nerves in the back of the horse's eye, which are designed to see motion in low lighting. So if we start thinking about these things, then we can start to appreciate what the horse is going through. And this spills over just a little bit into some other behaviors that you mentioned about seeing other horses. What I have found when I'm on the ground with a horse, especially with a patient, if the horse shows me some pretty intense interest in something that's going on, I will actually, and I know it sounds kind of weird, but I will actually walk with the horse over to whatever it is he's interested in. And so a horse being a prey animal is looking for a safe spot. And so the beautiful part about this whole relationship that we have, if we can prove to him that we're a safe spot, all of a sudden, and it takes some time, but of a sudden what will happen is when the horse gets worried, he will look to us as a safe spot, not run over the top of us and leave us flat in this. He's leaving the country because he doesn't see us as safe. He sees us as an impediment to his flight.
You just described training horses. I mean, that's the whole thing, is to get them to trust you and to not worry about the rest of it because I'm your safe spot.
Precisely. So it's not just training, but it's also in working with them. And I only get about 90 seconds to establish myself as a safe spot. So I have learned some things over the recent half a century that will help me to establish that very quickly. And one of the things that I've learned early on was that when one of my patients is showing an intense interest in something that's going on over there someplace, I just walk over there and share it with them.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, their head drops, their eyes soften. So now we go from this adrenaline, cortisol, stress hormone-dominated beast that's fixing to leave the country to something that's got more serotonin, more endorphin, more relaxed, drop their head, licking and chewing, eyes softened. I mean, all of these things go with this horse understanding that I'm no longer a predator, but now I'm a partner. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't take long to get that type of response if you know how to do it.
Man, that's awesome. That is awesome. Dr. Seamans, we, of course, have run out of time, but this is fascinating and just ties in so well with us just wanting to have a good time riding our horses and just interesting. So thank you very much. You guys can find Dr. Seamans at cornerstoneequine.com. There's one E in between Cornerstone and Equine. And he also has a book, Never Trust a Sneaky Pony, and other things they never taught me about school. So you can find that on cornerstoneequine.com. Did I get it all?
You did. I'm gonna have to start paying you more.
I came up with a solution to the Dr. Seamans problem. He is now the president of veterinary services at Horses in the Morning and Retired Racehorse Radio. Is that good enough?
Does it come with dental?
Yeah, we got to float. We can get you floated.
Yeah, that's right. We'll get you floated.
I can do that myself. I need you guys.
Bye, Dr. C.
I so enjoyed it. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye.
To celebrate the holidays, if you purchase a new bait saddle in November or December, you can redeem a free set of bait saddle competition luggage. Bates Saddles offer highly specialized saddles for every discipline, engineered to bring out the best in you and your horse. Underneath the finest European leather, you will feel the power of innovation. For you, the rider, enjoy instantaneous comfort, optimal balance, and seamless contact with your horse, leaving you free to concentrate on your aids. For your horse, the Care Cushion System and Easy Change Fit solution ensure this absolute comfort and your peace of mind. Revolutionize your riding experience and fulfill your true potential by riding in a Bates saddle. Conditions do apply. Visit BatesSaddles.com to find out more. That's BatesSaddles.com. So our next guest is Colleen Nolan-Tran. I follow her on Instagram because her horses are freaking adorable. She's a software engineer, animal lover, and a proud adopter of 2 off-the-track standardbreds from New Vocations. And she's here to talk about her experience at the Equine Affair in Massachusetts. Colleen, welcome to the show.
Hi, Joy. Thanks for having me on.
So I'm going to ask the most basic question. What drew you to standardbreds?
So actually, what drew me to standardbreds is thoroughbreds. I grew up kind of a thoroughbred person with more of a thoroughbred background. And one of my friends had adopted an off-the-track thoroughbred from New Vocations. And so when I found their site and I was clicking through the thoroughbreds, I kind of strayed a little bit and I saw the standardbreds. And I was like, what could I do with a standardbred? And I saw a little bit of the background on the standardbreds and I read a little bit about the breed. And I was like, hold on a minute. Like, I like trail riding. I like playing with my horses. I like, some of the slower, not necessarily getting out and riding every day. And it sounds like a standardbred might be more suited for me.
Interesting. Cause for me, I don't know. I've always known standardbreds were there. There was a track near my college for kart races. And you just don't think of them as riding horses at first. Like, I think there's that stereotype involved. So I think it's interesting that you kind of took a step back and analyzed what you needed out of a horse. And then you ended up getting 2. Are they both? And they're both from New Vocations, correct?
Yeah. So I got my first horse Cricket, and I kind of was just, like I said, I was just poking around on their site, and I was like, hold on, standardbreds look good. I read a little bit more about the standardbred on, I think they had a pamphlet, retraining the thoroughbred and retraining the standardbred. And when I read that, they obviously had been listed as a riding horse. And I was like, oh, okay, this seems fine. And then from there, I just kind of got my first horse Cricket. And I had such a great time with him. I loved him so much. When I moved to my own place and had Cricket home alone, Cricket needed a friend. So I was like, another standardbred.
That's how horse math works. When you get 1, you're really getting 2. I love it. So when you got them, did you find I don't know, what were some of the challenges with getting an off-the-track standardbred? Because I can easily list off all of mine from my thoroughbred, but you don't hear as much with the standardbreds.
Yeah. So with the standardbred, it's not so much, or at least it wasn't for me with either one of my horses, right? You get a thoroughbred, you have to let them down off the track. They are a little more high strung, they're a little more high energy. But with the standardbred, I didn't have as much track mind with them, right? They're pretty easy to handle on the ground. They're pretty quiet. You can pretty much, well, again, this is just with mine, but could trail ride them out pretty much from day one. And they were so well behaved and quiet. For the standardbred, I think the challenge that most people face is teaching the horse to canter. If you want to canter with your standardbred, that takes a little more retraining. You can pretty much hit the trails right away. It does take, weeks or months before you can have the standardbred cantering comfortably.
Okay. And do you do positive reinforcement training with your horses? Because I see more all the cute trick things. And I just love watching your horses. I'm like, I can't do that with mine. Yeah, how does she do it?
Tomcat's really smart. He's to be honest, I do a little bit of clicker training with both of my horses. I don't think Cricket really cares for it. Well, I mean, he likes the treats, but he's not, we love Cricket, but he's not a super genius. He doesn't really enjoy the problem solving. He's just let's practice the things that I already know. But Tomcat, on the other hand, he gets so bored so easily, and he's so smart. So for him, I've been training him. I taught him recently to step up on a pedestal. We did a little bit of Spanish walk. I was teaching him how to lay down in the summer, although it's a big ask in the winter when they get real nutty. I don't really want to clean them off. But yeah, I've done a lot of tricks with Tomcat, especially because he's just unbelievably smart.
I love that. And I think it shows the versatility of the breed again, just different personalities, different ways to do things. And you trail ride with them. You also show jump with them, correct?
With Tomcat, yeah. And so Cricket doesn't quite care for jumping either. He's quite good at it. He'll do it a little at home, but away from home, he would probably embarrass me a little bit. He probably would not not be happy to do it. So he humors me when we're at home. And Tomcat, he was a really great jumper when I was jumping with him. He had a soft tissue injury last summer. I don't know. It's been a while. And so I've been bringing him back slowly and possibly more jumping in his future. But that's kind of what led down the trick training route. When he was taking time off from his injury, he needed something to keep his mind busy. Because otherwise he was just messing with Cricket.
Awesome. So did you take both of them to Equine Affair then?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. Tell us about your experience there. How did you get asked to do a demo there? Did you volunteer? How did that all work?
So I think the first year I went was maybe 2016. And Jennifer Daniels, who was previously the trainer at New Vocations and adopted me out both of my horses, sent me a message on Facebook, and she was like, I think I remember you have your Standardbreds and you're in the area. Would you be willing to go to, I actually only had Cricket at the time. She's like, would you be willing to go to the Equine Affair in Massachusetts? And I didn't really know what I was getting myself into because I'd never been to the Equine Affair before. And I was like, yes, I love Standardbreds. I want to meet more Standardbred people. Like, sign me up. So I went my first year with just Cricket. I had such a great time, and we've been going back ever since. And then when I had the two horses, well, I just have the two horses, and it's really hard to leave one home alone, as you know why I have the two horses. So they both went. The first year I brought Tomcat. This must have been my fourth year then. The first year I brought Tomcat, he had been maybe 3 months off the track, and I stuck that sucker in the petting stall. People pet him. I brought him into the demos, and he was so good and tried so hard. And he was really brave in front of the crowd, and he was really great. And I'd only had him off the track for 3 or 4 months at that point. And I was like, all right.
Wow. My horse would have lost for marbles.
Like I said, the Standardbreds are just so, they're so quiet, and they're kind of just like, what are you doing? Okay, sure.
So for this year's demo, what did you do? Like, walk us through it.
So this year's demo, the first year I went, I did both horses in both demos, and I did a horse swap in the middle, which was a lot. And I was like, I'm not ever doing that again. So this year I got a little smarter, and there's a demo in the Coliseum, and that's 8 minutes long. And so I rode in on Cricket, and we did a little bit of dressage. He's been in dressage training. And so we just walk, trot, canter around. One of the things I like to show is that Cricket can canter. And so it's just a great way to demonstrate that Standardbreds can canter, they can trot. People think that, pacers only pace. They can canter, they can trot. And he's so good and well behaved. He was actually a little amped up for the demo. So usually he's kind of pokey, but he was actually in front of my leg, which was really nice. So I just had a little short dressage demo on him, and the other girls are in either driving or riding their horses. And then the second demo, it's a longer demo in a smaller ring, and I thought that one suited Tomcat a little more. So I brought him in with his little trick pedestal, and he steps up on the pedestal, and he just kind of trotted around a little bit in just the halter and my bareback pad. And he was so good. He tried so hard during that demo.
Wonderful. And I think I saw that you had a YouTube video of the demo if people wanted to take a look at seeing Standardbreds in action.
Yeah, my husband put that together for us. We got back, and he took videos of both demos. He took videos of me the entire weekend because he's great. But we got back from Equine Affair, and he edited the video together for us and did a little voiceover, and we posted it on my YouTube.
Wonderful. And so people can find your YouTube at what's your title for that one?
Colleen Nolan-Tran, just my name.
Okay, right under your name. Okay, some people do the hashtags and all kinds of. I'm not cool. I'm not young like that where I can come up with clever names. So I'm the same way. Awesome. And if people want to follow you, that's a simple way to do it. It's the best way to do it. If people want to follow you and Cricket and Tonka, where can they do that?
My Instagram at Nolan Colleen.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Colleen, for coming on. And, thank you so much for being an ambassador for this breed as well. We hear so much of off-the-track thoroughbreds, and we're just kind of learning about off-the-track standardbreds on this show. We want to expose them more and be an advocate for them. So thank you again for coming on today.
Sure, it's my pleasure.
Wonderful. Thanks again.
And from the back of the pack on the outside, Commanding Curve is taken second, but California Chrome shines bright in the Kentucky Derby.
And now it's time for the new Vocations Winner's Circle Adoptable Horse of the Week.
Well, it's an amazing time where we have new Vocations on with us, and there's some interesting things happening that are going to make my husband super nervous. Sarah, welcome back to the show to tell us about how I can give you more money so I can get another horse.
You are the best. We so appreciate it. So we are getting ready to launch our December special. Every year we do half off all adoption fees of all of our horses in hopes that someone will want a Christmas present from us. And it is on both our thoroughbred and standardbred retired racehorses. It's every horse within our program that is listed online, adopted out between December 1 and December 31.
Oh my goodness, that's some temptation. So I know that there's at least 4 horses I've been following you guys on. I'm like, I could make room in my barn for that horse. So now I can have one ready for Christmas and put a bow on her head.
Exactly. Just imagine how cute that would be with a bow on him. It'd be perfect.
I love it so much. And speaking of cute horses, we have Laura on. And Laura is the first time on Retired Racehorse Radio, and she's going to tell us about our standardbred adoptable horse today. Welcome to the show, Laura.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me. I'm really excited to talk about Mark Cruz. He is absolutely adorable. I'm not sure what's the most adorable about him, if it's his little brown eyes or his little light brown nose because he's got his winter coat, but he is fantastic. And what would you like me to tell you about him? Because he's been doing some great things since he's come to us a couple weeks ago.
Sure. Tell us about his personality, because his eyes are just so soft and he looks like he's just a big love bug.
He is. He's very sweet. You go into the stall with him and he is just happy to snuggle and get around you and be comfortable, and he wants to please. So I do love the fact that when I go in to work with him, he's very happy. He's very content. He does jump around a little bit on the cross ties, but I think that's just being in a new place right now, because as soon as we come into the arena, he is so happy to work. He is very honest about it. He wants to go up and do whatever we've taught him to do. So we worked with him on standing at the mounting block, and after a little bit of time, that stuck with him, and his personality is just that. He is happy to kind of do what you teach him and follow through, and I haven't been surprised by anything. He's very honest.
Oh, what a lovely horse. And where do you think direction-wise he's going to be going? And do you think he'll be more of a hunter jumper? Do you think he'll be dressage, Western?
Well, we've had him in English tack, we've had him in Western tack, and we've had him bareback. He trots. He started to canter this week, and he's not slow. So even though I've had him in Western tack, he's certainly not slow. I think he could do the English disciplines very well. I think he could excel at a trail hunt because we put a little obstacle course out for him this weekend with poles and cones to go around and a tarp to walk over, and he handled all that like it was nothing.
I love that. And what I love so much, I'm looking at his pictures because I'm just like jaw dropped with him. He's got like this beautiful refined head and these cute little ears, but he's got a nice strong shoulder and a straight back. Like he looks like a fit horse who could really take on just about anything you ask of him. So pretty versatile horse, and sounds like personality wise, the one that you'd want for Christmas for sure.
Oh, anyone that gets him under the tree will be very happy. He really will do whatever you ask. And he could go in pretty much any direction. I like his face. He kind of reminds me of a Morgan Araby kind of face.
That's what I was thinking of too.
Yeah, it just that sweet, kind of cuddly, beautiful eye, beautiful nose. But you're right about his body. His conformation is lovely, and his back is lovely. So, I just look at him and I think he could do really anything someone wanted to do with him would not be a problem. He'd be very happy to excel at whatever his next lifetime will be.
So his name is Mock Cruz. If you guys are looking for your next standardbred horse, you can find him at horseadoption.com. He's a 15-3 2013 bay gelding, going for the high price dollar of $500 adoption fee with a special of 50% off. So $250 gets you this phenomenal athletic horse. I mean, he's practically free. It's great. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. I'm going to be doing some Christmas shopping. And if you aren't in the position to get a horse right now, maybe think about giving a Christmas gift to New Vocations. They have their gift shop. You can get something for someone who's a lover of ex-racehorses, or you can make a donation in someone's name for them. Just a really nice gift to do as well. Thank you guys again for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You can find our show notes and links to today's guest on the website at retiredracehorseradio.com. Like us on Facebook and Instagram, just search for Retired Racehorse Radio, and follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. Jamie's email is jamie@horseradionetwork.com, and my email is joy@horseradionetwork.com, or you can follow me on Instagram at joyhequestrian. Thank you so much to our sponsors, Kentucky Performance Products, Cashel Products, and Bates Saddles. And don't forget to check out all the other shows on Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com. Guys, I thank you so much for being listeners too. I cannot say it enough. If you could take the time to subscribe to our podcast as well as leave us a review, that really helps other people find us. So if you want to do that for our other shows, I know they'll love it. It's the perfect Christmas gift for us hosts at Horse Radio Network. And don't forget to set your goals high and love to learn from every ride. And spay, neuter, and geld. Bye, guys.